brain recognizes audio signals?
So a lot of different areas of the brain. So a lot of our sensory systems, you perceive something, in this case sound, right, with some sort of receiver. In this case, that's our ears. And that information then goes into the brain, which does one part of processing. So the first part of processing is actually this figuring out where sounds come from. And it happens like that because it's really important, right? It has to happen super fast. So it's some of the fastest synapses in the brain, again, these connections, to allow us to say, okay, sounds here, not here. Well, then what do you want to know next, right? Well, who's talking, right? So then you get added layers of higher other brain areas that kind of start to process the information in different ways, right? How does this sound make me feel, right? So you get other brain areas that then are recruited to be like, oh yeah, this is, makes me happy, or this was my wedding song. And so it sparks memories, right? And then other brain areas. So it's not so simple to be like, this is the only auditory area, right? Because there's lots of connections between areas of the brain that talk to auditory pathways. But what I think is one of the coolest things, and related to that frequency that we talked about with aging, right? When you lose your high frequency hearing, is all of these cells that respond to auditory signals are what we call tonotopic. So they're specific to frequency. So you have a cell in your brain in different areas that loves 2K. 2 kilohertz, right? And it's going to fire every time you hear a 2 kilohertz tone. And then that'll fire in a different brain area for 2 kilohertz or whatever. So if you have lots of complex music, you're firing more synapses in your brain because more of these cells that are tuned to those different frequencies are all firing at once.
Which is why at dinner, Stephen asked the question about classical music. Can you explain that theory a little bit?
So Stephen asked if listening to classical music makes you smarter, right?
He's trying to figure out ways to...
I'm going to try anything.
And my response was, it's not so simple, right? Because any complex acoustic information, Metallica would be maybe really great, right? Because it has lots of frequencies that you're exciting in your brain. And so it doesn't make you smarter per se, but it is using more of your brain, right? Because more cells now, because you have more frequencies playing, are responding to those different sounds that you're hearing.